Okay, let's read this.
Whenever Richard Cory went downtown, we people on the pavement looked at him. He was a gentleman from sole to crown, clean-favored and imperially slim. And he was always quietly arrayed, and he was always human when he talked, but he still fluttered pulses when he said good morning, and he glittered when he walked. And he was rich, yes, richer than a king, and admirably schooled in every grace. In fine, we thought that he was everything to make us wish that we were in his place. So on we worked and waited for the light, and went without the meat and cursed the bread. And Richard Cory would calm summer night, went home and put a bullet through his head.
Man, I don't get this crap.
Me either. Let's get started.
We'll break it down line by line and then analyze the entire poem as a whole.
Whenever Richard Cory went downtown.
Line 1 contains the first example of connotation, which is very important since there is not a lot of figurative language in the poem.
Richard Cory walks downtown, which implies that he lives uptown, which is the wealthier part of the town.
We people on the pavement looked at him.
The word pavement implies that the people look up at Richard Cory since they are a lower class.
Was a gentleman from sole to crown.
This line contains a rhetorical device called a pun. The pun is that Richard Cory is wearing a crown. Crown can refer to the top of one's head, or to a crown that a king would wear, which suggests royalty, seeing that the townspeople think of him as royalty.
Clean-favored and imperially slim.
The word imperially suggests royalty. The townspeople really admire Richard Cory. This line also concludes the first stanza, which the purpose was to tell what the people thought about Richard Cory.
And he was always quietly arrayed.
This is the first line of the second stanza. This is all about how Richard Cory acts towards the townspeople.
And he was always human when he talked.
The speaker says that Richard Cory is always human, which means that even though he seemed amazing to the townspeople, he talked to them normally and wasn't arrogant.
But still he fluttered pulses when he said.
Even though Richard Cory talked to the townspeople normally, they were still overly impressed and nervous around him.
Good morning, and he glittered when he walked.
The connotation of the word glitter is positive, and it implies that Richard Cory was attractive and drew attention as he walked through the town.
He was rich, yes, richer than a king.
The stanza emphasizes Richard Cory's social class. When the speaker says that Richard Cory is richer than a king, the speaker is stating that he is more than a king, he's higher than a king.
And admirably schooled in every grace.
The speaker states that Richard Cory was admirably schooled. Richard Cory was smarter than the lower class, but he wasn't arrogant about it.
In fine, we thought that he was everything to make us wish that we were in his place.
The last two lines of the stanza show the envy that the townspeople feel towards Richard Cory. They also seem to be obsessed with his appearance and the way he looks.
So on we worked and waited for the light, and went without the meat and cursed the bread.
The lower class were upset with their lives. They couldn't afford meat, and they cursed the bread because it was such a low quality.
And Richard Cory, one calm summer night, went home and put a bullet in his head.
Richard Cory committed suicide. This is a form of irony because the townspeople did not expect it. It shows also that appearances can be very deceiving.
Very good. What about point of view?
The point of view is first person plural. The speaker is the lower class townspeople observing Richard Cory.
The townspeople are lower class and poor. They wish to be just like him and are obsessing over him and how he looks.
What are the tones in the poem?
The tones in the first three stanzas are admiration and impressed.
There's a shift in the third stanza from the townspeople speaking about their lives in a negative way, and then as soon as Richard Cory shoots himself, they start to feel indifferent and emotionless.
The connotations add to the tone. There are no words showing emotional attachment at the end of the poem.
the meaning of the poem as a whole?
Appearances can be deceiving. Although Richard Cory seemed perfect on the outside, he had problems that he kept to himself and away from the townspeople.
Great analysis, guys.
Oh, I get it now.
Sure you do, you dumb blonde. There you go.
They say that Richard Cory owns one half of this whole
Thomas?
with
Richard Cory, town people, most people. Why are you recording?
The point of view is
born into society, a banker's only child. He had everything a man could want: power, grace, style. But I work in his factory, and I curse the life I'm living, and I curse my poverty, and I wish that I could be, oh, I wish that I could be, oh, I wish that I could be Richard Cory. The papers print his picture almost everywhere he goes. Richard Cory at the opera, Richard Cory at a show, and the rumor of his parties and the orgies on his yacht. Oh, he surely must be happy with everything he's got. But I work in his factory, and I curse the life I'm living, and I curse my poverty, and I wish that I could be, oh, I wish that I could be, oh, I wish that I could be Richard Cory. He freely gave to charity, he had the common touch, and they were grateful for his patronage, and they thanked him very much. So my mind was filled with wonder when the evening headlines read, Richard Cory went home last night and put a bullet through his head. But I work in his factory, and I curse the life I'm living, and I curse my poverty, and I wish that I could be, oh, I wish that I could be, oh, I wish that I could be Richard Cory.